Bill PIDTO, the one and only host of MSG Networks. Bill, it's fair to say the New York streets are buzzing.
Yeah, we also had the Mets. I don't know if anybody on here is a baseball fan, but the Mets had an amazing comeback win last night against the Brewers in the baseball playoffs, advanced the second round of the playoffs. So we got that going. We got my Rangers shirt on because the Rangers open up here next week, and of course the big story for us is the Knicks with Carl Anthony Towns, a stretch five that they've really never had. You could say maybe KP, but Carl Anthony Towns, I think, really gives them the ability to match up more effectively against the other contenders in the East. And I can speak for the MSG crew. We're all really excited with the preseason opening on Sunday at Charlotte, and then the regular season against Boston on October 22nd.
How did you feel about the trade? Once it happened, were you shocked? Randall, obviously a huge piece. Dante DiVincenzo. I mean, it shocked the NBA world, Bill.
It did. I think that Alan Hahn, who we work with, has kind of said, "Hey, they really have wanted Carl Anthony Towns for a while." So he wasn't completely shocked. I think the fact that they had to put Dante DiVincenzo in the mix was something that no one saw coming. But when you look at the way they're constructed, you had DiVincenzo and Hart, who were acquired to be bench players, star as starters, and now both were asked to go back to the bench. With the trade, no DiVincenzo and Hart back into the starting lineup might be best for the team chemistry because I don't know. And DiVincenzo has said he was okay with the new role back to the bench. But I just wonder, after you have been so good as a starter, how both Hart and DiVincenzo would have handled reduced minutes this year. So the trade not only gives them a five, they had to have one with Mitchell Robinson hurt and Isaiah Hartenstein now in OKC, but I also think it clears up the rotation a little bit.
Yeah, well, obviously, the five outlook, everyone's been talking about it, the shooting. I mean, Bridges, he's my X factor, Bill. Who would be your X factor? Because Bridges, coming in, he's basically going to replace Dante's starting production. And we'll talk a bit about the bench. Deuce McBride, obviously a big key there. But for the starting five, I mean, Bridges, we're going to get our first look at him real soon. And, he's going to be a really, really impactful.
Totally. And, he's an elite player. At times, he's probably a better scorer than Anunoby. You have a full year with Anunoby. Hopefully, he stays healthy. Remember, Carl Anthony Towns has had his own injury problems. A couple years ago, he had that calf injury. He missed about 50 games. So, to me, the most important metric here for me is the health of not only the entire roster overall, but specifically Cat and Anunoby, because those two have a history of not always being able to go all the time. And we know in this culture with this team, you have to be ready to go every single night.
Hmm. How would your starting five look right now? And how do you see the bench, impactful?
Yeah, so I think there's no doubt at this point it's going to be Cat, Anunoby, Bridges, Brunson, and Hart. One thing to note about the bench: Payne, Shamit, and Bridges likely to play with the second unit. Achua, McBride, Payne, Shamit. Bridges, Payne, and Shamit all played together with Phoenix. So that is something to watch and could really help the chemistry of the second unit. They all were sons and now are back together. So I think that at least our crew thinks that, Tibbs always likes to have one starter with the bench. We think because of Bridges' experience in the past with Payne and Shamit that Bridges is going to be playing with the second five. We'll see.
Yes, I actually like that idea a lot, and I do feel like, a couple of the starters will always be on the floor. When Brunson goes out, Bridges can stay in. OG and Carl, I feel like will also alternate. Um, but the depth, Mitchell Robinson, we heard Bill that he won't be healthy to start the season. How do you feel like the lineups will play out? Small ball a little bit. Would you play Carl Anthony Towns more at the five? How do you see that playing out?
Well, there's no question that Carl Anthony Towns are going to start at the five. I don't know. Would you move him to the four and bring Jericho Sims off the bench for 10 minutes a night? We know that Precious Achua has been really effective as a four, but will he now be asked to back up Cat at the five? Um, I really believe if Mitchell Robinson does not get hurt, I don't know that they make this trade. But the other thing to consider is that Julius Randle can opt out of his contract after this year. Whether or not they talked about an extension or not, obviously they couldn't come to an agreement. And Karl Anthony Towns is on the books for 3 more years, plus a player option for a fourth year. So by doing this, you know what you have to pay. Whereas if you kept Randall, there would have been a lot of distractions about his contract and the upcoming trade deadline in March about what they would do with him. So I think the trade also solves that. Obviously, you have questions behind Karl Anthony Towns at the five. Maybe they can make a move. Hopefully, Mitchell Robinson comes back at some point, but I think they'll be able to handle the backup situation behind Cat.
Yeah, steady as they go. I feel like just the regular season's a warm up. Like we know they'll figure it out. They don't hand out the trophy early in the season, but it is important to get off to a fast start. You know, they'll be in Boston for opening night, and then it's Indiana, Cleveland, Miami, right? How important do you see the start of the season with these tight games? A lot of rivalries, and the East is stacking up pretty strong this year, Bill.
I think it's very important to get off to a good start because the expectations. You don't want the media to start going. You don't want the fan base to start getting frustrated and agitated. It's a tough early schedule. The Celtics, remember now, Horford retired. Al Horford retired, and KP is out. Like Mitch, KP is going to miss the early part of the season with the leg injury he sustained in the playoffs. So you got the Celtics on opening night. Cavaliers have locked everybody up. Pacers are another year in terms of their maturity. Philadelphia added Paul George. The Bucks are healthy. Orlando's emerging. It's not going to be easy. I think the top handful of teams here in the East are all really really good. And given all the pressure around the expectations, I think it's really important to get off to a good start.
Yeah, with that said, Bill, you know, the ceiling of this team, offensively and defensively, how do you see that playing out compared to last year? Obviously, offensively, they have more versatility, but you know they're going to be playing with Hart now in the starting five with some extra spacing.
Yeah, I think they match up better now when the Celtics are healthy when they have KP. You know, Randall's not going to be able to play the perimeter and handle the three ball the way Karl Anthony Towns can. Cat is a knockdown 3 point shooter for a guy that's 7 feet. He's arguably the best. He's better than Embiid at the outside shot. So that's really going to help create spacing for Brunson. You know, if they had Randall, would there be enough space on the floor for these guys to penetrate? Now you're definitely going to have all that room. You have Anunoby and Bridges with the ability to drill down the corner three. Brunson creating pick and roll with Karl Anthony Towns. Hart doing all that he does in terms of his hustle on the offensive boards. I mean, this could be a stacked starting lineup. Uh, and you can make the case that it's a better matchup now for the Knicks against the teams that they have to compete against in the East.
Yeah, and one key, you know, theme coming out of media day training camp is the Knicks will be looking to switch more. Bill, switching on defense might suit their personnel better. They don't have the same level of rim protection, but doubled up on the perimeter defensive wings as well. The Knicks were really good at fighting over screens, Hart, and the hustle, but I think switching and the versatility, the bigs can actually move their feet. You know, with OG, Sims, and Cat as well. How do you see that defense switching?
Well, that's interesting. I know the one thing that Thibs always stresses is rim protection, and I wonder how it's going to be with Karl Anthony Towns, Anunoby, and Bridges, as opposed to Randall and a healthy Mitchell Robinson. I think one of the things that people could underestimate is the impact Isaiah Hartenstein had on first the pick setting that was so effective by him on the offensive end, his ability to roll and to throw in that little floater, and also all of the hustle plays he had that always didn't show up in the box score. The hustle plays on the offensive board to keep the play alive, grab a key defensive rebound. I think he's someone that they're going to have to really make sure that they're able to fill in for, and it may be very difficult to do because his motor very unique for a guy of his size to be able to play that hard all the time.
Yeah, and the big cat, Tibbs has coached him in Minnesota. A lot's been made of that, that era. Jimmy Butler was there. Cat was an early in his career, younger player, but he mentioned, how much he's matured and he's looking forward to working with Tibbs again too. That, they both seem, really happy in practice. How do you see Tibbs getting the best out of Karl Anthony Towns now after
I,
the Minnesota days?
I think they'll be fine. I think a lot of the issues they had to do with Jimmy Butler, and obviously Butler's not around. They had issues with Butler and how Butler was handled. And to your point, Karl Anthony Towns is a little older now. He's almost 30 years old. He's back home in a way. He's a New Jersey native. Tibbs is more seasoned, and I think it's going to be fine. Now, you know that Tibbs was consulted on this trade and had to sign off on it. So obviously, he doesn't think there's going to be any issue at all.
Yeah, that is important to note as well. Well, look, MSG, it's going to be buzzing for another year, Bill. Obviously, we've got the same team returning, right? The Emmy Award winning team. Is MSG got anything up their sleeve? Are we going to see anything different?
We do have a new fill-in for Mike Green and Kenny Albert. Tyler Murray's been hired as our new radio announcer. He comes to us from the Boston area. He was the voice of the Pawtucket Red Sox, the Red Sox minor league baseball team. He's done a lot of hockey, a lot of college basketball. So he's going to be our radio guy, and he's going to be the third TV announcer behind Mike and Kenny. Uh, that's going to be the one change. And, the Knicks are popular, so we're losing 12 games to the national networks. But that's kind of the price you pay when the team that you work for is good and people want to watch. So we'll have 70 games. We'll also have a pregame show for the opener. We don't have the opener. It's on TNT on the 22nd, but we'll be on with a pregame show leading up to the Knicks and the Celtics. And then we get rolling with our first game when the Knicks, as you mentioned, played host to the Pacers on the 25th.
Yeah, it's going to be buzzing. Have you got a win prediction, a total? Have you thought about what this team can achieve in the regular season?
I'm going over 50 wins. And, the last 2 years, they've just come up short of winning in the second round. I think this is the year they go to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I think they got a shot to go all the way to the finals.
Yes, sir. Bill PIDTO, always great to talk to you. Look forward to another buzzing year of content and MSG coverage. Let's go, Knicks.